Welcome back to another episode of the Outsider Sports Baseball Podcast. Corey Jason, Ben Mandel, John Pauline, Dylan Mel, bringing it back to you. Guys, it's a sad, sad day. It's been a sad, sad week for baseball. Shohei Ohtani has torn his UCL. How many millions of dollars has he lost out on now that he can't pitch? And if he does want to pitch, I feel like he's going to get Tommy John, right? He's got to get it.
100%, right? And I mean, look, when you have this surgery, sometimes you come back throwing harder, sometimes you don't. He clearly wants to continue hitting through this. Well, you saw even with Bryce Harper, you're going to have to sit out at least 6 months to do so. Look, if he wants to pitch and pitch at an elite level, he's going to have to sit out 18 months. And we all know what sitting out that much time can do. He's still going to sign somewhere for big money. It's just probably not going to be in the $500 million range, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think we may have seen his last game as a starting pitcher. I mean, coming up on the contract year, it's going to be a huge decider for him. The team that's contending is not going to want to give him money for him to be out for 18 months. Now, obviously, he's a generational talent, but like you said, Ben, you don't know what you're getting back arm consistency wise to throw a guy $700-800 million. Ohtani has played the outfield before, so it's not like he's just in the DH spot forever like he is right now. If he gives up pitching, you could play him in the fields, you could DH him. I think that's the direction he's headed because, like we said, pitching and hitting at this level was the greatest we've ever seen for that stretch, but it's got a toll on your body, and we just saw it right there. And I fear we may have seen him pitch his last game as a starting pitcher, but he'll still be one of the best hitters in baseball. And I think he'll be an exciting outfielder if he chooses to go that route too.
Now, what you guys were saying, though, sorry, John, kind of leads me to two other questions. One, you guys kept saying his last game is a starting pitcher. Could we see him kind of move to a late game reliever role? Somebody who could play the outfield and come in and throw an inning every couple nights, right?
Well, no. Is he allowed to do that, though? Because there's rules now against position players coming in out of the outfield and just pitching. You have to have a certain
there were rules against the DH also, where if you take the DH, the pitcher has to hit.
I'm just saying, is he viewed as just a regular position player if he comes back now?
I don't even think we'd see him pitch that regularly. I think it would have to be a playoff game scenario where you want some gas and it's like a surprise thing, maybe a World Series, but just on your regular Tuesday night game because the pen's a little, worn out, I don't think you'd risk it.
I mean, do you think he just straight up focus on hitting then? Because I don't
think it's like a DH thing. I think he's athletic enough and fast enough to play the outfield. He used to play the outfield a little bit.
I was going to say that was originally he was just going to DH like the day before he pitched. Yeah. He was going to play the outfield. He was going to play in the field. He didn't turn into a regular DH really until the universal DH became a regular thing because then he knew he can go American League, National League.
It's just if he stops pitching, right, and he doesn't do it anymore, no relieving, no other outings, how much can we see his hitting improve where now he's focusing solely on that part of his craft? That's the only thing he really works on now. He doesn't have to worry about pitching. Could we see him, be a perennial 60 home run guy? Just all these things that he's done, take it to like the next level up.
Yeah, I think we could definitely see the contact go up for sure. I mean, you could argue he's got the most pop in baseball as is, so it's hard to put a ceiling on that. But, I think if he gets to focus solely on hitting, him and Aaron Judge, that'll be your two best hitters. Maybe throw Jordan in there for the AL. And if he were to go to the NL, he'd be right up there with the Acuna. But he'll have both contact and power if he focuses fully on hitting for sure. And I think he'll swipe some bags too. He just doesn't risk that right now as a pitcher, but as a hitter, I think he'd start doing it.
He's someone who can definitely break the game, and I think you can see him be a Ronald Acuna type guy. He is an athlete. He can run. He can play the field. He's got a strong arm out there. I mean, look, I could see him going out there and playing center field every day, to be honest with you. I think if Ohtani wants to do it, he can. And in terms of money, look, if he's someone who's going to go out there and hit you 50, 60 home runs every year, he's not going to be looking at anything shy of 350, close to 400 million if he's signing over a 10-year deal.
Start
Do
the
you guys
price at
know-
Aaron Judge's contract.
Do you guys know who leads the league in triples this year?
I
Wouldn't
feel
that
like
be
we'll make-
Shohei Ohtani?
Well, Otani's tied with Corbin Carroll and Bobby Witt. But the fact that he's pitching, leading the league in home runs, right? And then also leading the league in triples, or even tied for the league lead, that's pretty insane.
He's an athlete.
He is an athlete. But let's keep it trucking though. The Mariners, who were dead in the water a month ago, they just went on a 9-1 run and have now overtaken both the Astros and Rangers. The Rangers, who went 1-9 in their last 10 for the division lead. Who could have saw this coming? It's just a pretty incredible run. The Rangers had a 10-game division lead a month ago. It's just wild.
So the Rangers are pulling a 2022 Mets. They are the Mets of this year for what we saw last year. The Rangers are running out of gas. The pitching is falling off. They're losing it right now. And, the old manager that they bring back, all of a sudden, he's not necessarily pushing all the right buttons in all the right spots anymore. Bruce Bochy seemed like a shoo-in for manager of the year after the first half. All of a sudden, the train's kind of falling off the tracks, and he's got to right the ship and get it back on.
Yeah, Corey, you said who could see this coming? I mean, I didn't say this far, but somebody had them creeping in their power rankings before the rest.
You're right. Great job, John.
Yeah. All right. But no, the Mariners, I did not think that they would. We talked about this last week. Would the Mariners win this division? And we all kind of landed on it'd be a tall hill to climb. Well, we're here a week later and they're winning the division. They climbed that hill in a week's time that we said would be tough to climb in a month. And this team is perhaps the hottest team in baseball. I think it's fair to make that argument. We talked about J-Rod last week to an extent, so I don't want to go into that. But what a bright future for the Mariners. And they kind of feel like America's team right now. I feel like everybody's behind them.
Do you think this is something that they can sustain until the playoffs start?
I mean, 9-1 pace is ridiculous, but I
Yeah.
think that they could win the division for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah.
got the lead now.
But I mean, at some point, the Rangers are hopefully going to get hot again. I mean, I don't think anyone expected them to get this cold.
I
Yeah.
feel like this has been a long time coming for the Rangers, though. The Rangers have lost a lot of bad series to bad teams. They haven't really felt dominant since maybe early June, really. They've kind of coasted into having the Mariners and Astros struggling and then just keeping their head above water. They were never really dominant. Even after the trade deadline, they didn't really get that much better. They kind of plugged some holes, and the whole plugs are now popping out a little bit, and water's leaking out of the boat.
Yeah, the Rangers went from a shoo-in to win that division to are they going to be in the playoffs? Because they're in a dangerous division, and the AL East is also getting very hot.
Well, and the other thing, too, with Texas, let's be honest, if you said that they won the division this year and you looked at it at the end of the season, you would say that they overachieved coming into the season. They were not expected to, be this good, even though they spent the money. They were still viewed as a year off.
Yeah, but expectations change. But let's keep going. Justin Verlander, now with the Astros, he got his 100th win at Comerica Park. Just an amazing feat. Shows the longevity and dominance he's had for his whole career. And, I still think he's loved with the Tigers. When he's in the Hall of Fame, he will go in as a Tiger. He better go in as a Tiger because he's one of the all-time greats. Noah Syndergaard, acquired at the deadline by the Cleveland Guardians, DFA'd, wrong side of 30. This might be the last time we see Thor for a while. Now, Bob Nightingale, MLB reporter known for botching names and making weird stories out there that nobody else is quite reporting on. He says that Pete Alonso of the Mets is going to get traded in the offseason. And really that the Mets are going to look to move anybody that doesn't have a contract beyond 2025. Now, Ben, I am, interested to hear your thoughts. But really with everybody, what do you guys think? I don't think it's an accurate report. I don't see how the Mets can even look to trade Alonso. Alonso is the face of the franchise. He's one of the best power hitters in the whole league. And honestly, he might be the greatest power hitter in Mets history. How do you move a guy like this? You extend him, you don't get rid of him.
Agreed. And you saw the whole dilemma with the Yankees and Judge last year. The Mets don't want to have to go through this and go through all of that drama. And I guess one way around that is to trade him. I don't buy into it either. I don't think that Pete Alonso is going anywhere. I think that they're just stirring the pot. I think that the Mets ultimately want to extend him. There's no way you give out money to Brandon Nimmo and pay guys like that and then let a guy like Pete Alonso walk, because a guy like Brandon Nimmo is, honestly, I'm going to say it, worthless. If you don't have a guy who can hit home runs behind him in the lineup, you need someone who provides power. Right now, Pete Alonso is the only one who consistently does that year in and year out.
Yeah, I don't understand, like, logically why the Mets would move off of Alonso, face of the franchise, moneymaker, sure, but even from a baseball standpoint, if you're looking to go young, he'll still fit that timeline. It's not like you rely on him for any athleticism. He'll still be able to hit for the next decade. He'll still have pop for the next decade. So he fits whatever timeline you're trying to make. Maybe if this report was about Lindor, I could maybe buy it. I'm not sure if they'd move him, though. He's in their face, but I could maybe buy it, a guy that relies on athleticism and speed, but Alonso, no shot.
Weren't there reports of Alonso like earlier being a problem in the clubhouse and being like the cause of toxicity? I don't think any of those reports have really been confirmed, but I mean, if they were true, I mean, this makes more sense of wanting to trade him away if he's
Well, no,
causing problems there.
those are anonymous sources calling
So
into New York sports radio. There were no actual reports
that
or
that's the only
any
thing.
outlet picking up anything along the lines of Alonso being any kind of clubhouse problem.
Yeah, but that's the only thing I would think of that would make these that I would make these think that these things would be true about them Mets wanting to trade him. Like other than that, there's no reason to, because he's still young. Like
Even at
Dylan
that, I
said.
bet you still kick everybody else out the locker room before you kick out Alonso. You'd build that new locker room around him.
100%. Now let's get into some studs and duds, because a couple guys had some really good weeks. Other guys, not so much. For me, my stud, Mariners starting pitcher, Luis Castillo. 14 innings pitched. He went 2-0 this week. 6 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 15 strikeouts in those 14 innings. Great week for Seattle's ace. My dud, though, Rockies reliever Brent Suter. In 1 1/3 innings pitched, he went 0-3. You know how incredible it is to have almost as many outs made as losses in a week? 6 hits, 5 earned runs, 3 walks, 1 K. A lot of blown saves in that. Just a lot of bad pitching for him. But what about you guys? Who's your stud and who's your dud?
Well, for my stud, I'm going to go back into Detroit. I know last week you guys didn't have me on, but you were talking about this youth movement out there in Detroit, but you left off a name that I feel like deserves some love. So that's where I'm going with my stud this week. It's Kerry Carpenter, and he has proven to be the power in this young Tigers lineup. He had 2 more home runs last week, 7 RBIs, ended up going 8 for 19. And he's had 5 home runs over the last 2 weeks. He has gotten over the 20 home run mark now for the first time in his career in year number 2. The power has certainly shown up in the second half of the season for Carpenter, and he has just been fantastic. Another good young piece in that Detroit lineup. Now, my dud, Brandon Nimmo for the New York Mets. 2 for 24. Those 2 hits were singles. He did walk twice, but he struck out 9 times. An atrocious week for Brandon Nimmo to really just go with an atrocious season for him in the New York Mets.
Yeah, Ben, you mentioned Nimmo before is worthless, so nobody should be shocked there that he's your dud. But my stud, we touched on him a little bit earlier, Justin Verlander, an absolute great week aside from the 100th win. This guy went 2-0, a 0 ERA, 16 strikeouts, back to Houston, back to Cy Young ways. Ben mentioned it before we hopped on air. Verlander got back to being hot a little bit at the end there for the Mets, and now he's looking to potentially charge another Astros World Series run. Of course he is. My dud, Dane Dunning. You know, he mentioned the Rangers falling. He was part of the reason. Their worst loss in that stretch, 12-2 loss to the Twins. He was the starter, 4 earned runs. Just an absolutely atrocious performance from him and the Rangers as a whole.
My stud is someone who's been kind of on a slump for pretty much almost feels like most of the year is the Red Sox, Alex Verdugo. This week, he's finally starting to heat up 13 hits, 3 home runs, 5 RBIs, batting 382. I mean,
Pretty good week.
that's a really good week. So
Pretty solid.
hopefully he keeps that up. And then my dud is someone who was kind of a hot topic during the trade deadline is Detroit Tigers, Eduardo Rodriguez. He pitched like 4 and a third inning, gave up 5 hits, 4 runs, 4 walks, 1 strikeout, ended up getting the loss. But so not looking too much like a guy you'd want to trade for right now, though.
All right. Now, it is 1 month left, give or take, in the regular season. You know, it goes a little into October, but September is really where playoff spots are won and lost. So I want to go through kind of each division and get you guys' take on who you think is going to win the division. So let's start it off with the NL West. Who wins the division, and do you foresee any wild card teams coming out of this division?
Well, look, it's the Dodgers division to lose at this point. Arizona, it was cute. San Diego, did we really think they had a shot? No, it's the Dodgers division. Now, in terms of wild cards out of this division, maybe Arizona. I honestly don't see it, though. I think they've been slumping. They've been falling off a bit. I know this past stretch, they've been pretty good 8-2 in their last 10. Tommy Pham has been helping fuel them. Maybe they squeak into that last wild card, but the only real threat out in the West in the National League are the Dodgers.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you here, Ben. The Dodgers, it's their division to lose. Like you said, they got the best team in that division. I think they're potentially going to be on a World Series run or an NLCS run. When it comes to the wild card, it could be the Diamondbacks, it could be the Giants, but I'm going to go a different route and say that the Dodgers are the only team from the NL West to represent.
I mean, I agree with the Dodgers. I mean, I almost think the Dodgers almost have that almost locked up already. I mean, you can say it. I mean, I don't think they're going to really get caught there. But I mean, I'm going to go a different way, and I'm going to say the Diamondbacks probably get in the wild card spot. I think they'll start good going again and stuff. I don't think the Giants are, but I think the Diamondbacks have a good chance of getting that wild card spot.
Yeah, for me, Dodgers obviously win in the division, but I do see the Giants getting out. They're 1.5 games out of a wild card spot. I think they take a spot. The NL Central, though, for me, I have Milwaukee winning it, and I have the Reds getting one of those wild card spots. I just feel like September Reds is going to be a real fun thing to watch.
I agree. I think Milwaukee has separated themselves and they've been able to establish themselves. Now, I know it's not much. It's a 4-game lead, I think, on the Cubs. I think that there are going to be 2 teams from the Central, though, that do make the wild card. And it's very surprising with how bad we thought this division was going to be this year and really how bad they were for the first 2 months of the season. The Reds and the Cubs are going to get into wild card spots. We're going to see them be the 4 and 5 spot. I just think that the Giants are frauds. I don't think they're really that good. And I think Arizona, they're a year away, while I think the Cubs, they just have fire and there's a lot of excitement in Wrigley Field. And I'll tell you what, when baseball is good and the fans are out in Wrigleyville in Chicago, there's no better place for baseball.
Yeah, Ben, I agree, and I'll double down. I got the Cubs winning the division. I think September, the Cubs can bounce back. I think they're by far the best team in the NL Central. The Brewers have it in record, but if you look at that run differential, plus 79 for the Cubs and plus like 19 for the Brewers, the Cubs, when they win, they win. I think the Brewers and Reds, though, both get into the playoffs as wildcard teams. You know, maybe part of that's just I want to see Ella De La Cruz in playoff baseball, and I want to pick the Reds instead of the Diamondbacks or the Giants, who may be a smarter choice, but I don't care. When it comes down to that last wild card spot, give me the most fun team. Give me the Reds. Give me the Cubs winning the division. And who would have guessed it? 3 teams from the NL Central in the playoffs.
I kind of half agree with you there, Dylan. I think the Cubs are going to probably win the division. I think they're just going to keep going. I think the Brewers are going to fall off a little bit, but I think for the wild card, I think it's for me like a toss up between the Reds and the Brewers at that point. I don't think you're going to see both of them make it, like you guys are
Which one
saying, but
then?
I can't really say. I mean, I would like to see the Reds because I want to see playoff Ellie De La Cruz, but it's hard to say. But I think I'm leaning
But
more
gun to the
towards the
head, John. Who
Brewers.
is it? You
I
got to
think I'm
pick.
leaning more towards the Brewers,
All right.
but I think it's a little bit
Pulling
of a
teeth.
toss up.
Next up, NL East. Atlanta, I think, is pretty obviously going to win the division. And based off everything else, Philly's going to be the team they send to the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly it. I think Atlanta's running away with it. I think their odds to win the division per Fangraphs has been at 100% for about a month and a half now. So it's the Braves division to lose unless they have some kind of absolutely historic collapse, which I would love to see. I would love to see Atlanta collapse and Philadelphia make it and win the division. But I do think the Phillies are going to be that top wild card. I think that the Phillies are a top 3 team in the National League right now. I think that the Philadelphia Phillies are just, their pitching is just a little bit off, but the National League doesn't have too many standouts. You saw it in the playoffs last year. Those top 2 teams, the Braves and Dodgers, got knocked off early, and who knows, the Phillies could be on their way to another World Series.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more here, Ben. I think the division, it's set in stone. Get your chisel because Braves are winning it. Phillies are being the wild card team. But like you said, I mean, aside from Braves, Dodgers, in my opinion, the Phillies are the only other team that has a shot to represent the NL in the World Series, and they could win it. Copy and paste what you saw last year, except now they have Trey Turner, who could be getting hot at the right time, and Bryson Stott, who took another step forward.
And Taijuan Walker over Kyle Gibson, which I would take any day of the week.
Yeah.
I agree with both of you guys. I mean, I think Braves have that locked in. I mean, unless there's some historical thing like Ben said, which would be amazing to watch, but it's probably not going to happen. But I mean, Braves got that locked up. I think the Phillies probably have the top wild card spot locked up. And on a side note, I actually put the Phillies on my top 10 rankings this week. Not a fake fan. So we'll see if they fall off and stop doing bad. I guess you can blame me, but hope not.
Now let's go American League West. I have Houston winning the division, Texas and Seattle as the 2 wild cards on my end.
So I actually have Seattle holding on to the division here. We talked about this team last week. I just talked about them at the beginning of the episode, but I can't be more in love with any team right now in baseball. The Yankees, they're bad. I got to pick a new team to root for the remainder of this season at least. And for me, that's going to be Seattle. I love Julio Rodriguez. Like we mentioned, they're pitching at the top, especially for playoff baseball. And now that they have that division lead, I don't think they're looking back. I have the Astros as a wild card team out of this division. I think they're clearly going to make it, but I don't have the Rangers making it. I think the wheels completely go off the track, and this team in a very competitive AL misses the playoffs.
Dylan, I wish I could disagree with you. And this is why, it's good to let you go first here. So this way it's not like, one of us is just piggybacking here. It really, for the American League West, Texas, they're just not, I think they're not as good as they seem. Ball Go Boom only works so much. Guys like Dane Dunning were spectacular the first half of the season, overachieving. Nathan Eovaldi, hurt, but even when he came back, did you really expect a Cy Young season from Nathan Eovaldi for a full year this year? Come on, let's be honest. Guys like John Gray were overpaid to, go to Texas. Jacob deGrom, hurt. There are a lot of issues in Texas. Yeah, Max Scherzer's there now, but I don't necessarily love what they have. Yeah, look, come on. They don't have a rotation that you fear in a division that can hit the cover off the ball. Not to mention the fact you're literally in a race with Houston and Seattle, who have Kyle Tucker, Alex Bregman, Julio Rodriguez, the dump truck, Cal Raleigh. Come on.
Ben thought he was going to sneak in Alex Bregman like we wouldn't catch him.
Hey, the guy can hit. Kyle Tucker has been an absolute monster this year as well. I think the Astros getting in the wild card. Seattle holds on. They take the division. They're the hotter team. Of those 3, Seattle 9-1 in their last 10, Houston 4-6, while Texas 1-9.
All right, John, bring us home for the AL West.
So I think the Mariners cool off a little bit. I think the Rangers start getting back to how they've been for the most of the season. And I think the Rangers ultimately win that division. But I think the Mariners and the Astros get in the wild card. I think I almost want to lock them in at the wild card there because I think the Astros, I mean, they're kind of up and down, but they're kind of staying level. I think they're gonna to keep that wild card spot, and I think the Mariners, I mean, even though I think they're gonna cool off, I think they're gonna level off a little bit and be able to stay in the wild card run there.
All right, AL Central time. And is it just me or is it just Minnesota? And it's just the most underwhelming division in all of baseball.
It's just Minnesota.
I mean, Cleveland still has a shot. They were there last year, so we know what some of their players could be, but you won't catch me betting on them.
No, this is done. Look, Cleveland said they were done pretty much at the trade deadline, and the reason for that was they knew they weren't going to have Tristan McKenzie, and they knew they weren't going to have Shane Bieber. Their top two pitchers are done. The Cleveland Guardians are done. Minnesota, the only team from the American League Central to make the playoffs in what is officially the worst division in baseball.
Yeah, the only team with a heartbeat in a dead division.
AL East time, and I feel like this one's also, at least for me, pretty solid at the top. I think Baltimore wins, but I have Tampa as the only wild card team from this division. I just don't think the other teams that are capable of winning a wild card, I don't think they have it in them. I don't like the Blue Jays pitching staff. I don't trust them, and I don't think they have the winner's ability. I just don't think they have. I just don't think the way this team is built and the players that they have, they're not winners. Boston, I think they could get there, not this year, but next year. I think they have a really good base, but I think they're a next year team. So Baltimore and Tampa for me.
Look, I think that Baltimore and Tampa Bay at this point, the fact that they're both at 80 wins have to be shoo-ins. I think that Toronto, though, you can't discount them. And look, I left Texas off, so that means one other team is getting in. That team is Toronto. It's not the Red Sox, it's Toronto. Toronto can hit. Bo Bichette's back. They're going to get going. They have enough pitching to get there and to outlast Texas. I truly believe that. I think Toronto has got an easier road rather than Texas, who's got to battle with Seattle and Houston. It's tough that the Twins are going to get in over one of those teams, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, I like Ben, obviously. I had Texas out, so I got to have somebody else in. And like Ben, I have Toronto. You know, we mentioned it. Orioles, Rays, those are the lock-ins. I think Orioles win the division. But Toronto, you know, you guys are saying that their pitching's not good. Since the All-Star break, their starters have the lowest ERA, 3.33. Okay, they have 4 starting pitchers now that are about to be 4 or under ERA with Kikuchi, Gosman, Berrios, and Chris Bassett, the Hound Dog, right there, right at that 4 ERA. So,
not to mention the fact Ryu is back off the injured list as well. He's made, I believe, 3 or 4 starts.
Yeah, so, and I like the relief pitching. They added Jordan Hicks at the deadline, not a great ERA guy, but a guy that can throw some gas, and that's what you need in postseason baseball. Now, Corey, you mentioned that they're not winners. I'm not picking them to necessarily win a playoff series, but I think they'll get to one.
I think I'm going to go and agree with Corey more. I think Orioles have it locked up, and then the Rays have
Man.
have the other wild card spot locked up. I think the Blue Jays are just going to fall short in the wild card race there. I don't think they get in, but solid going Orioles, Rays. I think they're shooing and write it in stone.
Write it in stone. You heard it here. Orioles and Rays. Now, other things we do need to predict, and we did kind of talk about it before the season started. Going into last month, guys are still up for the awards, you know. As we get closer to the end of the year, we kind of know who's going to win what. And even now, some of the awards, we kind of know. So let's start it off quick. NL MVP. I said Acuna before the year. I think Acuna still wins it. Ben, you said Lindor. Dylan, you said Mookie. And John, you said Trey Turner. Do you guys have any new picks you might want to change him out with?
I'm going with Acuna.
You know, if I was to bet on it, I'd go Acuna. But here's what I'll say: I'll defend my pick of Mookie Betts and just say that he still has a shot.
So
Well, he's now the new favorite.
Well,
He's the favorite as of today.
Who do you want to go
Okay.
on record as saying right now?
I mean, I'll roll with Mookie. I picked him at the start. I'll pick him again, but 7.4 WAR.
Yeah,
Dude's got
Mookie's a
35 homers,
fantastic pick.
93 ribs. I mean, Mookie's just an absolute beast, and I picked him at the start of the season, but
It's a three-player race for this. We said Acuna, we said Mookie, Freddie Freeman being the other one. And I feel like those are the only three that have a chance.
I mean, Olsen's also in the running too. He's
John?
out there.
I think I'm going to change mine from Turner. Gotta go Acuna.
Smart man.
Gotta go Acuna. No, Phillies fans waited too long to give him that standing ovation.
Yeah.
They screwed up my pick.
AL MVP, you all three said Ohtani. I'm assuming you're keeping it at Ohtani. I said Yordan Alvarez. Yordan let me down. I'm switching to Ohtani. Now, AL Cy Young, Ben, you said Manoah. Dylan, you said Cole.
My preseason picks were terrible.
John, you said Ohtani. I said Shane McClanahan. I'm changing mine to Luis Castillo to win the Cy Young. What about you guys?
I'm going to Cole.
Yeah, I mean, I picked Cole at the start. Cole's a Yankee. It's the only bright spot on our season aside from Aaron Judge once he got back. So I'm going to keep it at Cole.
John?
I'm going to have to switch off Ohtani and go to Cole too.
Coltrane, love it. NL Cy Young, I said Sandy Alcantara. Ben, you said Max Scherzer. Dylan, you did Strider. John, you did Burns. I'm switching mine to Blake Snell. What about you guys?
Well, you guys, anybody listening to this would not believe that in our fantasy baseball league, I'm the one with the 7-2 record or 17-2 record after listening to who I thought was going to win all these awards preseason. I'm switching to Zach Gallen. I think that a lot of times you see the Cy Young go to a pitcher who's on one of those weaker teams when they have a really good season. And not that Arizona's a weaker team, but I don't think they're going to be a playoff team. I think the nod they're going to get is going to be Zach Gallen winning the Cy Young.
Yeah, I think I would switch to Blake Snell. Strider definitely still has a shot with all those strikeouts, but Blake Snell's just been on another level this year.
I want to switch to Zach Gallen also. I got to agree with Ben on that. I mean, Corbin Burns is still in the mix, but I think Zach Gallen's going to ultimately win it.
Now let's go to our World Series picks because we done messed up. Ben, you did the Mets over the Yankees. Dylan, you did the Yankees over the Braves. John, Philly over the Yankees. And then I had Seattle over San Diego. Now, with the way things are, I'm going to rock with Seattle still, and I'm having Seattle knock out the Braves in the World Series. Do you guys have an updated matchup you think is going to happen?
I think we're going to see an American League West team as well, Corey. I don't think it's going to be Seattle, though. I think Houston gets back. I think it's going to be Houston, Atlanta, a rematch. This time, Houston takes it.
Wow, that's
I know you guys did not.
Worst
You
thing
guys
that we
did not
could
want to
hear.
hear that.
But if history shows when Ben predicts something, the opposite happens.
Houston's not even making the
Houston's
playoffs now,
getting
right?
bounced in the first round.
Not even making it.
I'm gonna switch off the Braves train because I'd imagine that unless John goes with his Phillies, he's going there too. I'm taking the Dodgers to win the World Series over the Mariners. I think the Dodgers finally beat all those fake season allegations and get one done.
I'm going to keep my winner as the Phillies. I'm going to ride the Philly train all through the playoffs here, but I'm going to swap the Yankees out for the Orioles.
John's a real fan. He's rocking the Phillies.
Yeah, listen,
over
if
the Orioles.
the Yankees had a shot, I'd be right there with them.
Now, National League Rookie of the Year. I said Francisco Alvarez. I'm going now Corbin Carroll. Ben, John, you both went Corbin Carroll before the year. Dylan, you went Kodai Senga. Are you guys sticking or changing?
I'm sticking with Corbin Carroll.
I'm sticking to.
So pulling back the fourth wall here, I'm not really sure how to compare Kodai Senga seasons to Corbin Carroll, so I'm glad I'm not the award picker. I feel like Carroll's got the edge, but I don't want to switch off the guy. I'm going to keep my pick.
Well,
with
Senga is still in the running. I'm pretty sure he's still top
he's
5
still
in the
there.
odds.
Yeah,
he's good. I just, it's probably going to be Carroll, but I picked Senga, so let's just hope that he has like a no-hitter or something in September.
Next up,
The
AL
ghost.
Rookie of the Year. I picked Tristan Cassis. Ben, you went Anthony Volpe. John, Dylan, you both went Gunnar Henderson. I'm switching to Henderson. What about you guys?
I'm
Bam.
also switching to Henderson.
I'm sticking with Henderson.
Yep.
Just a phenomenal year.
Yeah, he's
NL
been
Manager
unreal.
of the Year. I said Bob Melvin. John, you said Bob Melvin. Dylan, you said Bob Melvin. Ben, you said Brian Snitker. Obviously, Bob Melvin of the Padres, Snitker of the Braves. I'm changing mine to Torey Luvolo of the Diamondbacks. Whether they make it or not, I think that what he's done with this team is phenomenal, and he should be rewarded with it.
See, now I'm going to just throw another name out there, although I think Snicker is still a great pick for this award. I think David Ross definitely deserves some recognition for what he has done in Chicago and resurrecting a team that had no expectations and a team that had some players and getting the most out of guys like Marcus Stroman. I know he's hurt now, but bringing Cody Bellinger back to life. Like, things like that are fantastic for baseball. It's great for Chicago. And honestly, it's great for Major League Baseball when the Cubs are good. I don't know about you guys, but I love watching baseball games in Wrigley Field, whether it's on TV. I've been lucky enough to go there multiple times in person. It's always a great time, no matter what the score of the game is. There's just something about good baseball in Wrigley Field, especially when the games are good. There's nothing like it.
I'm
Yeah,
agreeing with Ben here. David Ross. I mean,
I'm switching to Snitker.
Dylan with the basic pick here. Now we go to the American League. Before the year, I said Scott Service of Seattle. Ben, Dylan, you guys said Aaron Boone. John, you went Brandon Hyde. What are you guys doing? I'm switching actually to Brandon Hyde of Baltimore, even though I think Service could really win it.
Yeah, I think Service, especially the way that he has brought the team back, is impressive. But what Baltimore has done the entire season is more impressive, especially with a team that, even though they showed they were able to do it in the second half last year, no one believed they could do it for a full season this year.
Yeah, unless for some reason John switches, we're clean sweeping here on Brandon Hyde.
Nah, I believe the Orioles were going to do this the whole year.
John knows ball, is the
I
kid
know.
say. Now let's go to our weekly series highlight. Now that we've got all our awards predicted, guys, what's the one series you guys want to highlight? For me, it's Philly at Milwaukee. Again, we talked about Philly being a playoff team, Milwaukee being a playoff team. Now, once you're into September, watching teams that are in the playoffs play against each other, that's kind of what you want to see. Those are the teams that really need these wins.
Yeah, I'm going to go over to the American League, and it's Yankees-Astros. So many LCS games played, and, I know the Yankees are done, but, hey, the Astros aren't. Let's see if they can keep the train rolling, and let's see if the Yankees have a little fight in them.
Yeah, Ben's pick for the World Series, the Astros, to go back-to-back. I'm giving an NLCS preview, Dodgers-Braves. That simple.
I'm doing NL Central matchup, the Chicago at Cincinnati. It's an important game for the wild card. Cubs are up half a game wild card. Reds are a game and a half out. Should be a good game.
All right, well, that's going to do it here. Corey, Jason, Ben Mandel, John, Pauline, Dylan, Mel. This has been the Outsider Sports Baseball Pod. Check us out, outsidersports.net, Twitter, Outsider Sports 3, YouTube, TikTok. Search up Outsider Sports.